We're solving for the defragmentation of payment infrastructure across Africa. The more you see that we've got really, really diverse payment type, it's also, in a way, a testament to the fact that Africa has very, very developed payment systems. Every country has built faster payment infrastructure. In Nigeria, if you send money, you get the money in real time. But if you send money across border, that's where the problem is, right? So most merchant payments are disguised today as P2P payment because of the lack of proper infrastructure. Since we've launched, we've been able to do that efficiently by making it easy for people to use whatever payment type they've got to pay merchant in their manner of choosing, just to get that transaction to get done.
This is the Fintech One-on-One podcast, the show for fintech enthusiasts looking to better understand the leaders shaping fintech and banking today. My name is Peter Renton, and since 2013, I've been conducting in-depth interviews with fintech founders and banking executives. Today on the show, we are talking African fintech with the leader of the most valuable fintech company in all of Africa. I am delighted to welcome Olugbenga Agboola, who goes by GB, thankfully. He is the CEO and founder of Flutterwave, the leading payments infrastructure company in Africa. It was great to finally get GB on the show, as I've been so impressed with what Flutterwave has been doing. They have basically solved the payments infrastructure challenges in Africa. That is not an easy thing to do, let me tell you. They've created a unified platform in a continent that has been so fragmented. You'll find out how they did this in our conversation. Now, let's get on with the show. Welcome to the podcast, GB.
Thanks, Peter. Thank you for having me. And how are you?
I'm great. Thank you very much. Anyway, I'd like to get these things started by giving the listeners a little bit of background about yourself. And you've had a very interesting career, looking at your LinkedIn profile. Various stops in banking and fintech. Why don't you give the listeners a little bit of the highlights of your career before Flutterwave?
Thank you so much. Quick background, started my career as an engineer, I think almost 20 years ago now. I have worked across a bunch of companies like PayPal, GT Bank, Standard Bank of South Africa, which is Stanbic in Nigeria as well, Google, Access Bank, Sterling Bank, in a variety of roles for engineering, product management, leading engineering effort across all these companies in some way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. Helping to deliver a digital payment strategy for these companies as well at scale. Okay. I started Flutterwave almost 10 years ago now to solve payment infrastructure for Africa at scale.
What was it specifically that you saw that drove you to decide to start a company? After spending a lot of time in the corporate world, what was the driving force for starting Flutterwave?
The driving force has always been basically, how do you make payments simple for Africa, right? I recall working for a bunch of banks across Africa before Flutterwave, and one of the problems that we identified has always been about, how does a merchant or a business as a multinational, do payment across Africa? I recall one company that was trying to expand to Nigeria from South Africa. That company was not able to do so at scale because even though we were a bank back then, we couldn't serve them with what they require because obviously every country is unique. Mm-hmm. So I saw firsthand the need for a non-bank player who is willing to build a cross-border infrastructure, leveraging banking rails to solve that problem. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So let's talk about, before we get stuck into Flutterwave, let's talk about some of the highlights of how fintech has evolved. I think everybody knows the M-Pesa story, but that was a long time ago now, almost 2 decades. Can you sort of give us how fintech has evolved in Africa over, since really the launch of M-Pesa?
Go back into history. One of the biggest things about mobile money has been the GSM revolution, right?
Right.
Africa, as you probably know, leapfrog from no phone to mobile phones,
Right.
principally. And that's because of the infrastructure gap that was in Africa. But once that got solved and GSM became a big deal across Africa, mobile money adoption grew rapidly, right? And that growth basically paved the way for digital payment scale. With a mobile phone in the hands of every African, right? What could happen is just unprecedented, as we've seen, right? From payments to creator economy growing and scaling, all of that basically are the positive effects of the GSM revolution, which I think has happened.
Mm-hmm.
That said, it was only natural for telcos to see that moving money through mobile phones was natural cause of effect, when things happen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk about Flutterwave now. I mean, I think of Flutterwave as a sort of a combination of Stripe, Shopify, and Wise for Africa. But maybe you can sort of describe how do you describe it, and maybe you can describe sort of what the core product offerings are.
So Flutterwave is basically, first of all, a payment infrastructure. We've got a merchant service for businesses where we help businesses get paid from anywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm.
If a business wants to receive money from their customers anywhere in the world, we are available for that service. That's one. The second piece is remittances. We help Africans in diaspora send money back home to Africa. That's who we are. But that said, we have to build a combination of so many solutions to power our products. And why is that? Because Africa sometimes, require a different approach to solving problems than just a copy and paste from the West.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that to enable online payment, we have to build an online system, online store for merchants, or especially small merchants who might not be able to invest in technology. And using our platform, they're able to sell and scale and get paid, right? So even though the end goal is payment, to get to payment, we have to solve the underlying obstacles for payment scale. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So I believe you're a US company, right? I mean, I saw that you're headquartered, I think, in San Francisco. I know that we're talking today you're in Nigeria in your office there. What is the footprint of Flutterwave? Where are you located?
Yes. So our operational HQ is Lagos, Nigeria, which is where we're based from. Flutterwave is a proudly Nigerian company that has scaled globally. We've got employees all over the world in multiple markets. At Flutterwave, our culture is rooted in our purpose and our mission, right? We're building the infrastructure that will help to lift millions of Africa into better prosperity, because now they can get paid. Now they can access global opportunity. Now a small business in Nairobi or Accra or Johannesburg can sell to somebody in New York or in Berlin or in anywhere in the world they try really. If they have a payment card, they've got mobile wallets. With our reach and infrastructure, we can serve them, right? So we are basically global company with local nuances. That's what I would call it. We've got our team literally everywhere, but 90% of our team are based locally in Nigeria.
Okay, great. Then let's talk about cross-border payments. You said that you allow businesses to accept payments from anywhere in the world. Maybe you can talk about how you're able to do that. How are you addressing the challenges that any business has in accepting cross-border payments?
Right. So intelligent payment needs to be borderless. That's the way we say it, right? And we need to connect literally all the payment types across all the markets we operate in, because that is the way you can solve that problem.
Mm-hmm.
When customers come, they don't think borders, they think services. I want to get paid from this market. That's it.
Right.
And they come. They don't think, oh, my customer is in Nairobi, my customer is in Dakar or Cairo. They just have a customer who wants to get paid from their platform, right? So that's also the way payment has to be designed. despite the fact that regulation, car schemes are not built that way, we have to design it like that and fashion that across the entire pain point. Because to be very frank, the real problem here is fragmentation of payment systems, and we need to solve that. So we want to make sure that obviously with how we solve for cross-border, it's solved in a way whereby any customer, anywhere they are from the world, are able to pay or able to use a payment system in a simple way on our platform. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then let's talk about the payments behavior and the data that you've gleaned from that, because I like doing some research here. I know that you've done hundreds of millions of transactions. What are the key data insights that you've gained from that you can tell us about the evolving payment behaviors for both consumers and small businesses?
So increasing growth in APMs is where we help to drive and solve a lot of problems, right? In 2024, for example, we did a report that showed that, a lot of the regions in Africa, they favor some specific APMs, and that's because of the consumer preferences in those markets. Kenya is predominantly M-Pesa, almost 100%, while Uganda is similar through mobile money as well. Ghana is really, really huge when it comes to mobile money penetration, right? When Nigerians have a new payment type called bank transfer that is growing very, very, in a very huge manner. So we have to do what works for the customer and do what will actually help solve the problem they have at scale, right? And beyond that, as well, you go to the other markets, you see massive growth happening there. And one of the biggest insights you see here is the consumer behavior is constantly evolving. And over here in Africa, payment isn't really a luxury, it's survivor. With survivor, people will use what they have to make that payment. That's why you see people using, what they have, like Momo, like M-Pesa. If in the US, I use what is more than just available for me. I can use my car, use my credit card, my debit cards, my Amex, my Discover. Over here in Africa, there's that choice is not there. I use what works for me to survive in that market. So that's a difference in what you see there. And that's a major data point that we see in our interactions.
Right. So if someone is in Kenya using M-Pesa, they can pay a company in Nigeria through M-Pesa via Flutterwave?
That is correct. Our payment system today encapsulates all payment systems across the continent, at least most of them.
Right. Okay. And so, I imagine that's pretty fragmented, right? Because you've got obviously the ones that are highly scale, that have scale. Do most countries in Africa have their own payment system that they've developed inside the country?
Yes, they do. And that is interesting here. And that's what we're solving for. We're solving for the defragmentation of payment infrastructure across Africa.
Right.
And the more you see that we've got really, really diverse payment type, it's also, in a way, a testament to the fact that Africa has very, very developed payment systems. Every country has built faster payment infrastructure. In Nigeria, if you send money, you get the money in real time. But if you send money across border, that's where the problem is, right? So meanwhile, most merchant payments are disguised today as P2P payment because of the lack of proper infrastructure. Since we've launched, we've been able to do that efficiently by making it easy for people to use whatever payment type they've got to pay merchants in their manner of choosing, just to get that transaction to get done.
Okay, that's really helpful. So then, I've heard you talk about this phrase, "payment is partnership." What do you mean by that exactly, and how are sort of the partnerships bringing benefits for African businesses and consumers, for that matter?
So payment is really partnership because the payment infrastructure is a stack. It's a stack because there are so many things that makes a payment system actually work. From card payment to TPP processors, to American Express, to things we do for MTN, Airtel Africa, Safaricom. It's really a stack. Even though the customer sees just a payment button widget where they can pay on our checkout page, behind the scene, we've done a partnership with American Express that opened up Nigerian businesses to a global audience. We've worked with Uber to create value for millions of families of drivers. We've launched Send App with our partner network to support the livelihood of people sending money back home. We have built infrastructure that makes it easy for customers to actually get paid and also pay. So payment is really partnerships. You can't build without proper partnership at scale. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. So then, with talking about the technology stack that you've developed, I mean, can you explain maybe how you're moving money? Is everything going through a banking system, or you do have direct connections into all of these countries? I mean, how does the money physically move around Africa?
When it doesn't move, instruction moves, okay?
Right, okay.
So we've got our banking partners who are responsible for settlement infrastructure at bulk. We have our partners who make sure that this actually is working at the right scale, right? All that is there. So once you go the right banking partner, banking network, it becomes pretty simple, pretty easy. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier this year that you were planning to launch a next generation API. Where are you at with that? I mean, can you elaborate on what you're actually trying to achieve there?
Right. So our APIs are channels to our platform. APIs are how customers will engage our platform and use our APIs. We decided to rethink our API suite and said, if we were to build Flutterwave in 2025, what would the API look like? And that was the foundation of rebuilding the entire stack for our API suite. So we have what we call the next gen API platform. It's currently in pilot. It will set new standard for Africa payment infrastructure, with AI being center and front for this, right? This advancement has the potential to impact Africa's ecosystem by enabling our customers to pay and get paid with native options to their own customers, right? We're able to, for example, if you're a customer who typically use M-Pesa and you go to a merchant A, we will apply that preferences to that merchant. If you go to another merchant, the first option you will see will be M-Pesa, unless you've left Kenya and you're not in Nigeria, where we'll give you the next best option to M-Pesa in that market. All of that intelligence is built into our new API, and that's where we think we will help our customers have a better experience in accessing Flutterwave.
Okay, so given that you're active in so many countries, every country not only has their own payments infrastructure, right? It's got their own regulatory environment. So how are you managing that, ensuring compliance across this wide network?
So compliance is important for us. We've invested heavily in our regulatory compliance and risk infrastructure in the last couple of years. We've ensured that every market we're operating in, we have the right licenses with the right partners to scale that market. For example, in the US, we now have a lot of US money transmission licenses, which we got in the last couple of months, to ensure that our remittance business is 100%, within the right compliance framework. Mm-hmm. We've also built, monitoring systems that ensures that in every market we operate in, we're aligned with our stakeholders to ensure that we're doing things the right way and with the right scale in mind as well. Today, we're arguably the most licensed non-bank entity across the continent, right? And that speaks to a testament of compliance. We just don't want to operate. We want to operate the right way. We know that payment is a trust business. I want to try our best to enhance that trust with our customers.
Right. So when people talk about Africa, they often talk about the financial inclusion piece, where so many of the country didn't have access to any kind of financial services, and now with the growth of mobile technology, as you mentioned, that has changed. So how do you incorporate financial inclusion into your goals as a company at Flutterwave?
Financial inclusion is very, very important. And the reason why it's important is because of how it increases the share of the pie. If you get what I'm saying, that is very, very key because of the opportunity that comes from including more people in the ecosystem. That's also very important for us as a company, and we have constantly, invested in ensuring that we let our technology be platform agnostic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that if a customer in a rural area wants to pay on our platform, on our checkout page today, beyond cards, you will say pay with USSD, which is basically pay with text. Dial star something on your phone to make payments. We've built all of that infrastructure because we understand the value here and we see the opportunity. So this makes sense to us and we see why it's important. And for us, everything we can do to ensure more Africans are included in this ever-growing digital payments world is just the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Right. So let's talk about new types of payments rails. I was reading just recently that you are one of the inaugural partners of the Circle Payments Network that has just been announced recently by Circle. Obviously, they're the stablecoin company behind USDC. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing there and what the plans are.
So we believe very strongly in how we can obviously make payment even simpler. So when Circle started building that network, we saw the opportunity there. And then we basically try our very best to include that in our platform. The Circle Payment Network basically is revolutionizing how money will move across the world. And we being a part of that gives our customers another option to obviously be a part of that. As I said earlier, payment is a partnership.
Mm-hmm.
Circle Payment Network is another example of how we're leveraging that partnership to give our customers the best opportunity to move money across the continent.
Right. Gotcha. So let's talk about security, cybersecurity, and the risks that anyone doing business, really anywhere in the world, you have to have rock solid anti-fraud measures in place. Tell us what Flutterwave is doing to mitigate these potential security risks.
So at Flutterwave, we've done a huge investment in cybersecurity, and we did that because of our leadership and category leader position in payments, right? Obviously, you've seen a huge increment in fraud and security issues over the recent years. But it's not just one company's affair. I think it's a global thing. It concerns everybody, and we are constantly, making plans to solve that problem. One key way is cross-sector collaboration, which we've done in recent times. We partner with the EFCC, for example, to basically think about how can we help them to understand a new way to fight cybercrime using our platform, right? That we've done, right? We've also basically, we had a new CISO recently. His name is Muiwa. He spent years at Adidas, Nike, banks. It brings that whole wealth of experience to our platform for huge, huge scale, right? That we have done. So we're constantly reinvesting and investing in ensuring that our platform is top-notch secure. And our customers can rest easy knowing when you're in Flutterwave, you are literally home and secure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so given your unique position as a leadership position in fintech in Africa, I'm curious about beyond the payments infrastructure, how are you supporting the startup ecosystem in Africa?
So to be very frank, we see ourselves and our work as being very, very important and pivotal, right? We're investing in a lot of human capital development by empowering our youth through our training programs accelerate workshop, fintech evenings. Those are things that we do today to show that the ecosystem understands the scale of what we've done, as well as how to even make it further. Beyond that, we've trained young ladies and women entrepreneurs, with mentorship and funding. We've done a lot of collaboration with, for example, the Nigeria Small and Medium Enterprises Agency of Nigeria. We've done the same thing with the EFCC of Nigeria. But the whole goal here is, how do we contribute to the knowledge and the know-how in the ecosystem, right? And recently, I was at Semaphore in DC, the World Economic Summit, where I echoed the African voice in my conversation. And the goal there really is to ensure that Africa has a voice and the ecosystem at large is well represented, and we're doing our best to support the work that we've done, and whilst giving back in whatever we can.
Right. Are you investing in other companies in Africa or not?
No, right now. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Africa's a fascinating place. A lot of American investors are paying much more attention to Africa now than ever before. So there's a lot of investment going into Africa. But I'd like to sort of maybe get your sense when you're looking at the future of payments, in Africa. Maybe take us through what your vision is and what role Flutterwave is going to play in that vision.
So the role that we're going to play when it comes to Africa payments over the long term is really about scale, right? The same way Africa went from no phone to mobile phone, you see us go from not having payment straight to advanced digital payment. You've seen, for example, stables, crypto becoming very huge in Africa. And that's because of how Africa adopts technology and how quickly it scales in Africa, right? So you see a lot more mobile, more seamlessly embedded. You will see that it's a very infrastructure-led, which is why the work we're doing right now is so important. And it's going to help to grow and scale into Africa trade, attracting even more investment to Africa. You will see that happening across board. And that is so key.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we'll have to leave it there, GB. I really do appreciate you coming on the show today and making the time. Fascinating chat with you, and best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Okay, see you.
Bye.
I think Africa needed a company like Flutterwave to be successful. The combination of Stripe, Shopify and Wise, as I said, means that new fintech companies can be created leveraging the backbone of the Flutterwave infrastructure. In fact, it has ramifications far beyond fintech or even technology. If you are an African entrepreneur in any industry, you no longer need to think about how to expand across borders in Africa. It is a solved problem. That, in and of itself, creates more opportunities and becomes a virtuous cycle. Exciting times for Africa indeed. Anyway, that's it for today's show. If you enjoy these episodes, please go ahead and subscribe, tell a friend, or leave a review. And thank you so much for listening.